Welcome to the Deep Dive. We've seen a lot of interesting stuff from you listeners lately. Sources focusing on this big challenge, leading creative teams getting the most out of them.
Yeah, it's a tricky area, and right in the mix is Justin Price's book, The Creative Squeeze, Getting the Most Out of Your Creative Team.
That's the one.
And it's grounded in over 20 years of him actually doing it, leading creatives. What's fascinating is how his takeaways often, push back against traditional leadership ideas.
Exactly. So our mission here is to really unpack the key insights from Price that can help you lead your creative team better. We'll focus on those surprising truths, the ones that might challenge how you think.
Okay, sounds good. Where do we start?
Right, so the first big lie Price tackles is this idea that your team needs you to be the creative expert.
The pressure to be the most talented person in the room.
Totally. But the truth, as Price sees it, is actually they need you to be the best visionary leader possible.
Makes sense. So this first part is all about that shift, right? Moving from being hands-on creative number one
to empowering the team. Exactly. He shares this story from early on, young creative director at a mega church. And he just had this moment of honesty, realizing, for specific skills design, video, whatever, others on his team were just better.
Wow, that takes some humility to admit.
It does. But Price says that realization was actually freeing. Stepping back from needing to be the expert, let him see the bigger picture.
Right, it gave him perspective, and that's what allowed him to actually empower them, wasn't it?
Precisely. And here's the kicker, the really counterintuitive part Price found. The more successful the team got, the less he was doing the hands-on stuff.
So his role changed fundamentally.
Yeah, it shifted to setting the vision, that North Star, the goals, and then trusting the team with their expertise to figure out how to get there.
Which leads to some big mindset shifts for the leader, though.
Definitely. The first one is moving from passion for the work to passion for leadership.
Okay, but that doesn't mean you stop caring about the creative work itself, surely.
No, not at all. It's more about figuring out what really drives you as a leader and deciding which bits of the hands-on work you need to let go of to lead effectively.
Like Price's background in art and music.
Exactly. He talks about drawing, painting, music. Those passions still inform how he thinks, his leadership style. But he's not the one doing those things as his main value add anymore.
He becomes more of a curator, is that the idea?
Yeah, that's the word he uses. A curator, not just the creator. He even puts in these gut check questions.
Oh yeah, like what?
Like reflecting on your career, your current role, how much you need to be the expert, and what you actually gain by lifting your team up.
That's powerful self-reflection. What's the second mindset shift?
It's think like a long-term investor.
Okay, because the temptation is always, it's faster if I just do it myself. Right. Especially on a deadline.
Totally. But Price argues that investing time now, building good systems, clear processes, communication, reporting, that's the essential investment for the long haul.
It creates a healthier, more sustainable environment.
And it pays off. He cites studies, Oxford and Warwick, I think, showing happy people are like 13% more productive.
Wow, 13%?
So a healthy culture isn't just nice, it actually impacts the bottom line. Less turnover, more output.
So investing time in the team, not just focusing on saving money right now.
Exactly. And this connects to things like AI too, seeing it not as a threat, but as a partner.
Right, something to automate the routine stuff.
Yeah, freeing up your team for the deeper, more innovative thinking.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So that's a first lie dealt with. What's next?
Lie number 2. The path to success is the one that avoids failure.
Oof, yeah, the pressure to be perfect.
We all feel it. But Price hits back with the truth. Failure is necessary to achieve growth.
But there's failure and then there's failure, right? He makes a distinction.
He does. Between healthy failures, the kind you learn from, that builds resilience, and unhealthy failure.
Which is more about blame, fear, not learning anything.
Exactly. And at his agency verse, they actually try to find potential fail points. It's part of their process for growth.
They actively look for them. How does that work?
They do this thing like reverse engineering growth. Start with the goal, then build a conservative step-by-step plan, anticipating where things might break.
So they can course correct early. Smart.
It's the opposite of being frozen by fear, which just leads to stagnation and missed chances.
Price talks about different relationships with failure.
Yeah, 3 types. First, being frozen by fear, basically you do nothing new.
Okay.
Second, misunderstanding failure's role. This is where maybe you ignore small early failures or jump in too big too fast, then panic and pull the plug too soon.
Wasting resources. Price admits he did that early on.
Yeah, with some marketing campaigns. And the third way, the goal, is embracing failure.
Which means?
Taking an iterative approach. Small steps, test constantly, aim to fail fast to learn quickly. He points to their client retention rate at like 87% annually as proof this realistic learning approach works.
That's impressive. And how you handle failure as a leader is key too, right? Giving feedback.
Absolutely critical. Price stresses separating the person from the work. Focus feedback on the work or the process, not the individual. Guide them constructively.
Makes sense. Like his web development example. Complex projects, lots of potential failure points.
Exactly. You need checkpoints, you need to budget for rework. It's expected.
So it's about helping creatives see that perfection isn't the only goal. Failure is part of learning.
Precisely. Helping them understand those stumbles are valuable.
Okay, moving on, line number 3.
To get the most out of your team, push them as hard as you can.
The grind culture approach feels very old school.
Right. And Price counters with the truth. Getting the most requires trust, respect, and balance.
He contrasts this with, like, the Steve Jobs or Elon Musk style, acknowledging their success, but also the human cost.
Yeah, exactly. The burnout, the strained relationships. Price shares his own regrets, missing time with his daughter.
And he feels his work is better with balance.
He does. More sustainable, better quality. He argues for a new school of leadership.
Based on empathy, learning from mistakes.
Yes, shaping culture without those crushing burdens. And the first pillar of this is empathy.
Which he admits didn't come naturally to him, due to his upbringing, focus on sheer hard work.
Right. But his late wife's illness taught him a huge lesson about understanding what's actually in someone's control versus external factors.
And empathy isn't about lowering standards.
No, he's clear on that. It's the posture you take when addressing expectations. Understanding the person first.
Okay. And the second part of this new school idea.
Figuring out their fulfillment, excitement, and frustrations. Really understanding what makes them tick.
Like the example of Colin on his team. Struggled with strategy, but thrived with video and audio.
Exactly. It shows the power of aligning individual passions and strengths with the team's needs.
So you listen for 3 things. Fulfillment, the long-term values connection. Excitement, what engages them now. And frustration, the roadblocks.
Yeah, he mentions doing regular temperature checks at Verse to keep a finger on that pulse.
That holistic view makes a lot of sense. Okay, 4th lie.
Effective leaders push the organization from the top down. Very command and control.
Not ideal for creative teams, probably. So the truth is,
You get the most out of your team by listening.
active listening. Sounds simple, but it's foundational.
Totally. Price says it's not just a buzzword. It builds understanding and, crucially, trust.
And he admits he struggled with this, jumping into fix-it mode.
Yeah, which actually devalued his team's input and eroded trust over time. Big mistake.
Until he realized his job was more about asking questions, being curious.
Exactly. Understanding their process, their thinking. It requires higher emotional intelligence, especially with creatives. Understanding motivations, frustrations, excitement.
And moving away from just focusing on weaknesses.
Right. Instead, understand their preferences, their strengths, and align those with expectations in a way they actually enjoy.
He contrasts this continuous listening with annual reviews, which often feel outdated.
Yeah, too slow, missed opportunities, people feeling unheard.
So what does Verse do instead? Weekly one-on-ones?
Yes, but critically, they're team member-led. The employee drives the agenda, opportunities, problems, self-assessment.
That's a great dynamic shift. It empowers them.
Totally. Creates leadership moments. Then they have weekly team meetings, but Price tries to talk for less than 20 minutes.
To give space for others.
Yeah, and they have other staff lead parts of it regularly. Keep it dynamic.
And quarterly reviews instead of annual.
More frequent check-ins, focused on how people are feeling, their current season, stable, challenged, asking things like, what are you proud of? What excites you?
More coaching, less criticizing weaknesses.
Exactly. And they do biannual 360 reviews too,
Right.
getting feedback on leadership.
Which likely contributes to their low turnover.
Seems likely. Beyond meetings, they foster connection too, right?
Especially remotely.
Yeah, informal stuff. Slack channels like Dogs of Verse, Kids of Verse, recommendations, pop culture, optional study halls to work together virtually.
Nice. Creating those water cooler moments. And it all comes back to their guiding philosophies. Hire good people who share values, give them chances to grow, and take care of them. Benefits. Pay.
Makes sense. Okay, 5th lie. Standard operating procedures, SOPs, ruin great creative work.
Ooh, yeah, creatives often hate the idea of SOPs. Sounds stifling.
Right. But Price argues the truth is, SOPs make great work more consistent.
Interesting. He came to this conclusion after 2020, questioning the old model.
Yeah, the cost of purely custom work felt unsustainable. Then he met a founder of a big agency using SOPs heavily and successfully.
For everything, hiring, sales, delivery.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It showed him systematization could actually maximize a creative team, not kill it.
Even though it sounds like a nightmare to some leaders.
He acknowledges that, but argues clarity leads to accountability. It focuses creative energy, stops you reinventing the wheel.
And challenges the idea that all creative work is brand new. Often it's adaptation.
Yeah, he suggests channeling creativity into making templates that can reach more people.
Like his own graphic design experience, unconsciously developing processes over time.
Exactly. He realizes the value later. He applies it to nonprofits, churches, too, places with repetitive tasks often overlooked for templating.
So how do they use SOPs at Verse? Automating steps, checklists.
All of that. Automating, checklists, setting time boundaries, even embedding the creative director's key questions into the process itself.
Clever. He mentioned 3 core processes.
Yeah. Intake discovery, understanding audience, brand, competition. Campaign process from intake and planning, goals, budget, KPIs, through execution to monitoring. And reporting process, evaluating success, transparency, measuring ROI, building a knowledge base.
Sounds thorough. And project management software helps.
Definitely. Base templates you can tweak, even for bigger, unique projects. They template the process steps, timelines, checkpoints, goals, mood boards.
So if you don't plan and template.
Price says you either overcharge to cover inefficiencies or you fail to deliver well. Simple as that.
Like building a house without a plan, his analogy.
Exactly. You need to understand the process up front. He mentions that show Grand Designs, where projects always seem to double in time and cost.
Yeah, and people who resist planning are often tough collaborators.
That's his observation. Makes sense.
Okay, line number 6. Growth means you should always be doing more.
The busy trap leads straight to burnout.
For sure. So the truth.
Growth comes from doing the right things, not more things. It's about strategic problem solving, aligning creative work with organizational goals.
Not just volume. He acknowledges leadership can feel like a creative downgrade sometimes.
Yeah, and the challenge of working with non-creative leaders who might resist new things.
But the key is strategic thinking over just doing more.
Exactly. Avoid burnout, focus energy. He outlines a team approach to problem solving.
How does that work?
Define the problem together, brainstorm judgment-free, vote or prioritize ideas, create actionable steps with owners and deadlines, schedule check-ins, evaluate and report. Pretty standard, but requires discipline.
And he pushes efficiency over effort. Don't confuse being busy with being productive.
Right. Give high performers permission to stop doing less valuable stuff.
He learned this the hard way, by overloading his own team initially.
Seems so. He realized he needed to create safety for them to push back, talk about bandwidth.
And assessing value is key. Asking what an outcome is worth versus the cost.
Yes. What's the best outcome worth? What's the solution cost? How do we bridge the gap?
Yeah.
Balancing value and values.
Like the example of the client needing everything. Strategy, branding, web.
Yeah. Don't try to do it all at once. Prioritize immediate value. Find the best entry point for collaboration.
He also talks about roadblocks and sacred cows.
Roadblocks are processes or people stopping progress. Sacred cows are those outdated, we've always done it this way things.
You need to understand the value and emotion tied to sacred cows. Evaluate them strategically.
Exactly. And for roadblocks, anticipate opposition, be relational, be open to adjustments, get feedback from decision makers.
Got it. 7th lie. Guiding principles are corporate BS.
Yeah, the cynicism is real sometimes, especially with creatives.
But Price says,
The truth is, guiding principles are the backbone of your organization, if they're actually lived, not just words on a wall.
it's the integration that matters. Into reviews, hiring, daily decisions.
Totally. Otherwise, they are just BS. But when they're real, they act as a compass, prevent wasted time on bad decisions, align everyone.
So benefits are
Consistency, clearer decision-making, client trust, team alignment and morale, boundaries for innovation, adaptability for growth, and ethical responsibility. Lots of good stuff.
How did Verse define theirs?
Price looked at inspiring companies, then involved the whole team. Discussions about motivations, aspirations.
And they landed on 3.
Yeah. Humble, willing to listen and learn. Strategic, focusing on purpose, planning thoughtfully, and brave, pushing boundaries, innovating.
Why 3?
Felt right. Enough substance, but still clear and actionable. And they use them constantly celebrating wins, justifying decisions by referencing them.
So they're really embedded in the culture.
It seems that way. Okay, final lie, number 8. You can't measure creativity.
The age-old debate.
Indeed. But Price's truth is, there is always a way to measure the objective side of creative work.
Okay, so not measuring the spark itself, but the impact.
Exactly. He admits quantifying subjectivity is tricky, but measuring outcomes is crucial. What gets measured gets managed, right?
He uses the example of a Gen Z campaign, where the leader might not personally like the creative.
Yeah. Danger of dismissing it based on gut feel alone. Data bridges that gap.
Helps you see it through the audience's eye, based on objectives.
Right. Logic and data provide a foundation, sharpen intuition, align output with goals.
But don't measure just anything. Avoid vanity metrics.
Definitely. Focus on top-line revenue, key mission numbers. Look at trends over time for context.
So how do you harness data effectively?
Establish your North Star goal. Gather relevant data analytics, A/B tests, feedback, and crucially, understand the why behind the numbers, the human side.
Data complements intuition, doesn't replace it, fosters collaboration.
Yes. And he mentions AI's growing role here too.
How so?
Processing huge data sets, spotting patterns, simulations for proactive creativity, personalization, real-time feedback on iterations. Lots of potential.
Wow, okay. So wrapping this all up, the core message seems to be about challenging old assumptions.
Yeah, embracing truths centered on empowerment, trust, balance, listening, structure. It's a different way of leading creative teams.
It requires those mindset shifts, seeing failure as learning, investing long-term in people, focusing on empathy and communication.
And recognizing that guiding principles do matter when lived, and that you can measure the objective impact of creative work using data and tech like AI.
Price has a one more thing section too, right? About fun.
He does. The importance of fun, collaboration, seeing the team as allies, and that the work is just better, more enjoyable together.
Makes sense. So a final thought for our listeners.
Yeah, maybe reflect on one or two of these lies. How might shifting your view on just one, maybe failure or SOPs or listening, unlock something new for your team?
Which principle hits closest to home for your current challenges? Maybe pick one to consciously try out in the next few weeks. See what happens.